You know, I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker. No, I really want to be a motivational speaker. But it was never easy for me to get up in front of people and talk to them. So I think that's why I connect with all of you guys online, because I get to have this conversation. And I get to tell you things that I wish somebody told me when I was younger. And one of those things is something my dad told me when I was very young. I was probably like 7 years old. And he said something that changed my life forever. Completely changed how I view the world. And if I would have understood what he was saying at that age, I think I would have done some things differently. And so I want to share that with you today. I asked my dad to borrow $20 and he said, "Son, I don't got $20. And I said, "Why not? You make good money." He said, "Son, I only have a few dollars to my name. I need to pay rent and buy food. I can't give you $20. And then I looked at him like he was crazy. And he said something that changed my life. He said if I didn't have hope, I would kill myself. I looked at him like he was crazy. I was 7 years old. And then he explained to me what he meant by that. He said if I didn't have hope, meaning if I didn't have the belief that someday things could be better, I would end my own life. Because right now, everything is terrible. There's no reason to keep living if things are going to be bad forever. But I have this hope that one day things will get better, and so I keep going, and eventually things did get better. We had more money, we had a better house, we had nicer cars, and I realized that my dad didn't have hope for himself, but he had hope for me. He knew that even though our situation was difficult now, that didn't mean it had to be difficult forever. Now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that this principle applies to almost every aspect of life, and especially our relationship with God. Hope is something that we must hold on to and never let go of. In Romans chapter 5, verses 1 to 5, Paul says this, "Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access to this grace and stand in awe of his free gift, the hope of the glory of God. Not only that, but we also boast in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character, and character produces hope." The word hope here in this passage isn't just a wishful thinking kind of hope. This is a confident expectation of something that we know will come to pass. The Bible tells us in James chapter 4, verse 13, to commit your plans to the Lord and hope in him. In all your ways submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee. Here it tells us to not only have hope, but to actually commit our plans to God and then hope in him. In a moment, I'm going to show you to people that illustrate exactly what the Bible is talking about when it talks about hope. But first, I want to make sure you understand that having hope doesn't mean that we just sit back and do nothing. I think sometimes there's this misconception that if we just have hope that things will get better, that we can just sit back and relax and do nothing. But that's not what the Bible teaches us. In fact, the opposite is true. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. When it comes to having hope and expecting God to do something in our lives, we must be working towards that goal as well. God expects us to put in the effort to work towards the thing that we want to see happen. So for example, if you want to get in shape, you can't just say, "God, I want to get in shape," and then eat a bunch of junk food and sit on the couch all day waiting for God to make you fit. You must pair your prayer with action. You must change your diet. You must start working out. You must put in the work and then have the expectation that God is going to help you to achieve your goal. Same thing goes with finances. If you want God to bless you financially, you can just sit around and do nothing and expect God to just magically make the money appear. You have to put in the work. You have to be a good steward of what you have and then have the confidence or the hope that God will indeed honor you for your diligence and faithfulness in the area of finances. Now let's look at two characters in the Bible who perfectly illustrate this principle of having hope. The first person is someone most of you probably aren't familiar with. His name was Hezekiah. Hezekiah was the king of Judah. And during his reign, the Assyrian Empire came against Judah and laid siege to Jerusalem. They were destroying everything in their path, and Hezekiah thought for sure he was going to die. And so he made preparations for his son to take over after him. And he even wrote a really long letter to the king of Assyria, just basically begging him to let him live. And in that letter he said, "I know that my life is hanging in the balance and that I am going to die. I know that I don't deserve your mercy, but please have mercy on me and let me live." And in that letter he reminds the king that no other nation has been able to withstand the power of the Assyrian Empire. But God humbled them and didn't allow them to win any victories over Israel. Hezekiah then finishes that letter saying, "So please, great king, may my prayer come before you. Surely my plea will reach you, and I will be saved from this ruin of destruction. Who knows? God may deal with me as I plead such things before him. If I have acted wrongly, my father, King Ahaz, was wicked before you. And yet for his sake, he humbled himself greatly as a submissive beast, like a dog, and anointed his son Jotham and made him king." So you can see here that Hezekiah had given up hope. He believed that his life was over and that he was going to die. But listen to what he does. He still prays. He still humbles himself before God. And he reminds God of his past faithfulness. And he says, "God, you have a good track record when it comes to delivering Israel. So I'm going to believe that you're going to deliver me as well." Fast forward a little bit, and God answers Hezekiah's prayer and delivers him from death and gives him 15 more years to live. Now I know what you might be thinking. Oh, well, Isaiah wasn't a believer. Well, what about a believer? Let's look at Job. Job was a man who was extremely wealthy. He had lots of children. He had a big family. And one day, while he was spending time with his family, God allowed Satan to test Job. And Satan took away his wealth, killed his children, and then he afflicted Job with boils all over his body. And Job was miserable, lost everything. And many times throughout the book of Job, Job questions why God would do this to him. He even curses the day he was born. But throughout the entire book of Job, Job never loses hope in God. Even though Job questioned God, he never doubted God's goodness. He never doubted God's sovereignty. And in chapter 19, verses 23 to 27, he says this, "Oh, that my words were written, that they were inscribed on a rock, and that they were carved with an instrument of lasting cedar, or written with the stylus of gold on the palm wood, or engraved with ink on a stone for all eternity. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus clothed, that is, after I have suffered, I will see God for myself, and my eyes shall behold him. My heart faints. If I wait till I get my hope, my expectation from God, he will speak his way into my heart, and among the living I will declare all his wonderful works." So you can see that Job was a man of God who had unwavering hope in God. And even though he went through unimaginable suffering, he never lost hope. He held on to that hope until God vindicated him and gave him twice as much as he had before. So brothers and sisters, whenever we are facing difficulties in life, whenever we are going through tough times, we must remember to hold on to hope. We must trust in the fact that God is in control. And even if things look bleak and hopeless, God still has plans and purposes for us. Well, I hope that this message has blessed you. I hope that you've learned something new. And I hope that you will apply this truth to your life. If you've done that, I'd love to hear about it. Please leave a comment down below about how this message impacted you. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I would love to have you join this community of believers who are all learning and growing together. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.